It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Joe DiBiase of the Locked On Sabres podcast. ButcherBox has all you need for a tasty, stress-free holiday season. This Black Friday, your search for amazing deals on high-quality protein ends with ButcherBox. They're offering their best deal of the year. Choose your free steak for a year. Choose between 2 New York strip steaks, filet mignons, or ribeyes to get free in every box for a whole year when you join. Sign up today at butcherbox.com/NHL and use the code NHL to choose your free steak for a year and get $20 off. That's butcherbox.com/NHL. Use the code NHL to get this special Black Friday deal plus $20 off.
News across the NHL continues to heat up, and it's getting extra spicy inside the lab on the Wednesday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Patrick Kane is a Red Wing. What does it mean for his fantasy value? And all of the other top news from across the NHL, including what is going on with Corey Perry. Breaking it all down for you on today's episode. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What a time to be alive, hockey heads. Welcome back to your source for fantasy hockey news and daily degenerate gambling breakdowns. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and I am privileged to be joined by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele wrote in on this side of the microphone. It's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone, and sincerely shout out and thank you to all of y'all for making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Steele, it's been a busy couple of days in the NHL, and it's not just injuries. It's not just signings. There is a lot of wild news, no pun intended. The Minnesota club firing their coach. I know I got to get your take on that. I want to know what's going on with this Minnesota Wild club because there are some fantasy pieces that you and I talked up big time. Hashtag Philip Gustafson coming into this year. We're going to pick your brain on that, break it down. We got big time bets, of course. I think I'm most intrigued to talk about this Patrick Kane situation. He finally makes his decision. He was supposed to choose a cup contender, Steele. Should we be reading more into these Red Wings? We'll break that down maybe first, right off the jump. Adam Fox is back. Corey Perry is all waivers.
Lots of news.
Lots to take in. So let's keep it tight. Right over to you as always, my friend. Patty Kane, worst statistical season of his career just a year ago. Hip resurfacing surgery. We know it's serious. It probably pooched Nicholas Backstrom. What's your take on this? He chooses the Red Wings when he was docking to the Rangers, the Dallas Stars, the Florida Panthers, and even the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he chose the Detroit Red Wings? Hit me with your take on this, my friend.
Yeah, it's what I said just a couple of episodes ago. I believed it was going to be the Detroit Red Wings or the Buffalo Sabres, and Red Wings was more the prolific team that it seemed to be. And I think he's going to find some a tremendous amounts of success in Detroit with the Red Wings. And in the end, it came down to 3 significant reasons. Number one, obviously, reuniting and wanting to reunite with Alex DeBrincat. You know, the last season they played together was only 2 seasons ago. It wasn't too far from when they played with each other. And in that season, the 2021-22 season, Kane finished with 92 points, which was 3rd highest in his career, whereas DeBrincat finished with 78 points, which was his career high in that season. He's already on pace for 49 goals. And imagine adding a player like Patrick Kane and playmaker who you know has that chemistry into the mix. I think they find immediate success. Number 2, apparently Patrick Kane really likes Derek Lalonde's style at head coaching position. He likes the way that he works the X's and O's. He likes the way that he handles the benches and the players. And so far from from going from these 6 different clubs that were in the mix, Detroit came out on top. And obviously, like you mentioned, with the contending part of it, he believes that he can win in Detroit and help this team. You know, this team hasn't made the playoffs in the last 7 years. And with the addition of him, who has won many Stanley Cups and was on a Stanley Cup contending team last year, obviously they lost in the first round, but he believes that he can be a significant factor in sending them over that hump, getting into the playoffs and being a contending team. And so far, even this season, Detroit is looking really good. 11-6-3. They're rocking with three solid goaltenders in Ville Husso, Alex Lyon, and James Reimer. Defensively, they're very strong. They have a few guys that are great offensively. Strong bottom six, like you mentioned, with Daniel Sprong just last episode as well. And then again, imagine DeBrincat, Larkin, and Patrick Kane on the top line would be absolutely sick. So I understand, like you said off the top, some of the doubters, obviously coming off serious hip surgery that kept him away from the game for 6 months. Like you said, had the lowest point total in a season of his career last year. But you got to look at the other facts involved with that. Look at the players that he was playing with in that season.
Sure.
And to that, again, I would say look at who was left on the team after DeBrincat was traded. Look at what happened when he was traded to the New York Rangers and playing with Panarin. Had 12 points in 19 games, had 6 points in 7 games in that first round playoffs. And 11 out of the 16 seasons he's been in the NHL, he's been a point per game player. So I believe that he can return to that factor. 62 games remaining in the season. Maybe he can be a point per game type of player again. Maybe not, but 45, 50 plus points with close to 200 shots, which he does every year, it seems like. I think it's very attainable. And in, looking at both leagues, ESPN, he's rostered at 52%, 62% on Yahoo. So he's definitely out there in a few different leagues.
The angle that I immediately thought about this is it's the injury angle. It has to be. It's not just any other player. It's a guy who's, he's 35 years old still, a lot of mileage on this body as well. It's a caveat that you and I try to bring up. When you're looking at numbers, don't forget all of the games played that the Chicago Blackhawks did on multiple deep cup runs to the success of 3 banners in that rafter on Madison Avenue in Chicago. But Patrick Kane, how I'm looking at this deal is, it is his ability to return to health, because clearly you just highlighted the fact that he can still produce points with elite players and really make his teammates better around him. We know this guy can sauce the puck just as good as anybody who's perhaps ever done it. He can stick handle in a phone booth, and he has hands for days, and we know those hands are still money. So I'm with you on this take that he can still bring elite fantasy level production in terms of offense. And I'm talking about on that power play in Detroit. And that's where I wanted to talk about next, because dig into these numbers, and Detroit has the 9th best power play in the league already. So now throw Patty Kane on the mix on that top unit, which I think he's going to be feeding that biscuit over to DeBrincat. There's no way they're putting him on the second unit. That also is going to bump a name in JT Compher or perhaps David Perron off that top power play unit. So if you are invested as a fantasy GM into the top 6, top 9 forward group in Detroit, remember that this isn't just about Patty Kane. His minutes are going to have to go somewhere. So remember who that's going to impact. But Steele, speaking of impact, I think it's clear he will bring positive energy, offense, and a winning caliber to this club. And that's all I wanted to bring up lastly. 3 cups, the Calder winner as well, which I forgot about. 2016 Hart, 2013 Conn Smythe, 2016 Art Ross. This is an elite player. This is why so many teams were interested in him. And that's why even after the surgery, you and I are both buying into his ability to perform offensively. Speaking of ability to perform, very quickly, Adam Fox back in the lineup, Steele. Last season, he was runner-up for the Norris Trophy. The year before, he won it. He is one of the best defensemen in the game, and these are his numbers before getting hurt. He is one of the best defensemen in the game, Steele, and through 10 games this season, 3 goals, 8 assists. He was bringing it offensively. He's a leader in that locker room, and I really, really do think if the New York Rangers were able to get it done to the level of success that they've been getting it done already, Steele, what does this mean now for the overall success of this club? Because I'm telling you, this is one of my favorites, and I know you'll agree with me, one of the best blue lines in the business all around in New York.
Yeah, Rangers have been very strong without him. 7-2-1 in their last 10 games without Adam Fox, as he's missed 10 games to the lower body injury. But this is obviously huge for New York Rangers and fantasy owners out there. Like you said, he's one of the best defensemen in the game. Maybe not so much on the peripheral side of things. I still think he can shoot the puck a little bit more, maybe get a little bit more physical. He does bring a ton of blocks to the game as well for those certain categories. Yeah. But he's an absolute juggernaut on the power play. 9 of his 11 points do come from the power play. All three of his goals on the power play, 6 assists on the power play. He's an absolute juggernaut on the quarterbacking side for the New York Rangers. And like I said, the peripherals are okay for a top tier defenseman, but the offensive side of this player's game is undeniably one of the best in the game.
Hey, he's going to go right back on alongside his normal pairing with Ryan Lindgren, balancing out that blue line for a New York Rangers team that's already sitting in prime position atop that division. Wait, are they in top of that division?
New York Rangers top of the Metro.
Yeah, I was going to say the Carolina Hurricanes are 7 points behind. So thank you very much, Steele. We're going to tap into the rest of the episode, though. Corey Perry, Evason, right around the break. And, of course, big-time bets. Only 3 games, Steele, so we're going to keep it tight. You and I need a big bounce back after stinking it out to start this week. But that's what we come on here and do, baby. We take it on the chin, and we try and provide these fire takes. However, today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the win, and the winning trophy is always what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, baby, not cash. And with all the parts that you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP to bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers.
Hey everyone, Chris from Locked On Avalanche here. If you like using debit over credit, I just learned about something that's definitely a game changer. Discover Cashback Debit. It's a checking account that rewards everyone with cash back on everyday purchases, which means you can get cash back on NHL tickets or head-to-toe hockey gear to make this season a total win. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Big news from Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. So you got to tune in. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. We love all that support you show us. Continue to hit the subscribe, leave a follow, and a 5-star review.
Please.
We got some big news as well coming from both 2 Western Conference teams, Chicago Blackhawks and the Minnesota Wild. And then we'll get to big-time bets towards the end of this episode. But let's start off with the Corey Perry news, the Chicago Blackhawks. Corey Perry placed on waivers for the purpose of contract termination. Still very unknown what actually happened for this to happen to Corey Perry and for the Blackhawks to take severe action, but they did release a statement. Part of that statement was, we don't know. Part of that statement from the Blackhawks saying that Perry's conduct was unacceptable and in violation of his contract and internal policies for safe work environments. Again, they didn't go into what actually transpired. We're not going to get into it because obviously we don't know what actually happened, but clearly something severe enough to terminate his contract.
We're not going to speculate on any of the rumors that are out there because that's what it is. It's just purely speculation, but clearly something has run awry here. And you can read into whatever rumor you want on your own. We're all adults here. Decide your own decisions. But I implore you to do your research first before you go out there and make yourself look like you don't know what you're talking about. Because also, I'll say this, Kyle Davidson was addressing the media basically right when we started recording this deal. So maybe the media in Chicago can pry a little bit more of information out of this. I don't think we're going to get much more. The bottom line here is they clearly brought, like bringing this back to hockey, they brought this guy in to protect Connor Bedard. They brought him in to form some level, along with Nick Foligno, of course, toughness, but veteran leadership. Look, say what you will about Nick Foligno and Corey Perry, bit greasy, both of them. They're leaders, they're warriors, and especially Corey Perry, he's a winner. I would say this, 4 goals and 5 assists for Corey Perry. By the way, 9 points through 16 games, chipping in with PIMs, chipping in with shots. in deeper formats, he was also fantasy relevant this year, Steele. Obviously, you're getting away from him for sure. It's an immediate drop. That's not really the angle here. What does this do for the psyche of the young players on the Chicago Blackhawks team, though, that were fitting in with Taylor Hall, that were fitting in, with a guy in Corey Perry that clearly is a teammate's teammate? You love playing with a guy who throws his body around, Steele. So I know Connor Bedard is still an amazing level talent. I know we weren't buying into Chicago as a winner this year. I just got my eyes peeled on this situation because something doesn't smell right. And that's makes me concerned if I'm invested into those very few Chicago Blackhawks that do have fantasy value, because this could spin out.
Yeah, and it will be very interesting to see what happens with Corey Perry's future in the NHL as well. Maybe if teams want to look into acquiring and signing him for the rest of the season, like, he does bring a lot to the table in the bottom six. He always
playoff winner too.
Playoff winner, playoff winner and Stanley Cup winner, I believe.
Yep.
Back when he was with the Anaheim Ducks.
Yep.
But yeah, so he definitely has that veteran experience, but it will be interesting to see if other teams that may be interested try to contact the Chicago Blackhawks and get some sort of news on the story, or, even potentially maybe just trying to not even, teams obviously trying to stay away from it, because he is 38 years old. He's obviously on the older side. He's one of the older players in the league. So it might be time, but who knows what what's going to be going on with his future.
That's the question mark. Lots of question marks around the entire situation. We just got to touch on it because it is major NHL news, maybe not affecting as many fantasy GMs out there as what might be happening with this Minnesota Wild Club, Steele, because I pulled up the numbers quickly. Matt Zuccarello having a good season, classic, loading up the apples. Kirill Kaprizov, though, with only 6 goals, is a disappointment. Joel Eriksson Ek has gone hot and cold. We expected more out of Matt Boldy. I know he was banged up. Basically, every situation that I think we expected to really explode for this team hasn't really worked out. I know they're very good defensively, and I think that's really all that's really kept them into games. You can maybe tell me if I'm wrong on that one. But Philip Gustafsson hasn't been good. When Pat Maroon was one of the most consistent guys to start the season, Steele, I think that's got to be a concern for more than a few reasons. Anyway, I want your take on this. They fired Dean Evason. I feel like this was coming. So did you. Do you think this team has enough time to turn it around? And if not, what does the future hold for some of these pieces in Minnesota?
I do think they have enough time to turn things around. It's the same sort of situation as the Edmonton Oilers were going through at the beginning of the season. Like, we never really heard anyone talking about if this would happen to Dean Evason as the head coach, if he would be fired. But I think we all saw it coming in our own head. Same situation as Jay Woodcroft. This is a playoff caliber team that was trending in the wrong direction. We know they've been in the playoffs for many, many years now. But again, just like the Edmonton Oilers, they've lost 7 games in a row this season. They're at the bottom of the Western Conference, bottom of the league. They're 5-10-4 on the season, third last in the Western Conference. And like I said, they've lost 7 games in a row now. And in the last 8 years, they've only missed the playoffs once. They've made the playoffs. They've made the postseason 7 of those 8 times, but every single time they've lost in the first round. They're just like the Toronto Maple Leafs. They can't seem to get out of the first round, obviously, besides this past year for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Evason was head coach for three full seasons. And in each season, they finished top 3 in the Central, but they continued to lose in the first round. So when you have a caliber playoff team that you know can be a contender to make a deep playoff run, maybe let alone Stanley Cup run, but a deep playoff run, but you can't get out of the first round. You start off 5-10-4, and clearly you're not getting any offensive production from your top 2 players in Kaprizov and Boldy. There has to be some sort of change, and that's what we saw in Edmonton, and it had to happen in Minnesota, even though I really did like Dean Evason behind the bench and being the head coach. Sometimes you just have to make a change to get everyone on the same page.
I think there's a point to be made here also about Philip Gustafsson is still a young goaltender in this league. And his small sample size has looked really good and everything up until, and I'm not even close to really giving up on him, because this is my point I was going to try and make. The defense has been good. But when your team isn't scoring a goal when your goalie needs it, and I know there's been a lot of issues, it's not just the offense in Minnesota, but that's been, if you could point at one thing, Steele, I think you could back me up on this one. If you could point to it, it's their lack of that lethal scoring punch.
Yeah.
They've always been there with goaltending. They're great on special teams usually. This season, they have the 7th worst power play in the league, and they're scoring the 5th most goals. So right now, for me, it's coming all the way down to that confidence, the ability to roll 3 effective lines, because what really, do they even have 1 fully effective line right now? It's tough. So I think there is time for them to turn it around. You're seeing the Edmonton Oilers do it. You're right in terms of their standings. Both the Edmonton Oilers and Minnesota Wild sitting there in that 7th, 6th spot with 14 or 15 points. There is time. They're going to need to get some offense. They might need to get creative. We know Bill Guerin's not afraid to make some moves in that front office. You know I like talking about Billy G. He might have to strap on the blade steel and play some power forward if they can't figure out some goals. But you and I are going to figure out these bets right after the break. Mini 3-game board, but I got a same-game parlay that I think you're going to like. And at the end of it all, I've said it a few times over the last couple of weeks. This stretch of the season is so pivotal as a fantasy hockey GM. Things are getting busy. Steele, you can attest to this. Things are getting crazy in life. December is nuts. You're all over the place with family and plans. Stick to it, because I'll tell you, there'll be some other guys out there doing it, guys and gals. Make sure you stay tapped in and tuned into the pod.
Gotta stay tuned in for big time bets as well. Coming up very, very shortly. But this episode is also brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. And that's why we urge everyone to use the Game Time app. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals on all prices, views from your seats, and the best price guaranteed. Last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, everything you could ask for. It's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Views from your seats at the venue, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection. It's amazing. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. Buy tickets in seconds with only 2 taps. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on all tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you with 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
This is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast to draw your attention to the taste that's going down in the bread aisle. All thanks to Dave's Killer Bread, bread amplified. Anyone can bake bread, few can rock it, and Dave's Killer Bread is the champion of killer taste, killer texture, and is for those who want to rise above the boring. Organic and healthy doesn't have to mean boring when it's made with the highest quality organic and non-GMO ingredients, packed with whole grains, fiber, and protein. 21 whole grains and seeds bread has a subtle sweetness and a seed-coated crust, while Good Seed products are the boldest and sweetest of all. Dave's Killer Bread was built on the belief that second chances can change lives, because after spending 15 years in prison, not only did the guy with the guitar you see on every loaf turn his own life around, he's helping others to do the same. By hiring the best people for the job, regardless of their background, he's ensuring your mornings no longer taste like cardboard, your taste buds don't have to feel sedated, and your sandwiches can become superstars. Visit daveskillerbread.com to learn more and look for Dave's Killer Bread in the bread aisle of your favorite grocery store.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit that subscribe, hit the follow button, and a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us every single day. And let's get over to big time bets where the money is made. Flip, I heard you say that you had a big flip triple dip.
Yes, sir.
I was very, very close to also having a triple dip on Wednesday night. Maybe I might change my mind. Who knows? I might change my mind. But as of right now, I've got 2 picks from the same game and then a lock of the night. But I'll let you start off. What are your picks?
Thank you very much. This is one of those nights, Steele, that, and what I've appreciated from you and our betting angles and our betting breakdowns at the end of every single episode lately, is you've been raising a point of, if you're not feeling it and your gut isn't in it, there is no problem with not making a wager. Look, life is expensive right now, Steele. If you're not feeling it, don't just bet it. throw a couple of bucks down on one of your crazy wild 16-leg parlays for fun and just do it that way. Tonight isn't one of those nights, though, Steele. Even with 3 games, I'm really loving my angles. And the first one is this Montreal at Columbus game, the total. I'm loving the over here. I think you and I are both on the total here. In the last 10 matchups, the total has gone over the number in 6 of the 10. So it's not like a crazy glaring number. 3 of the last 5 games for each of these teams have gone over the number. This one just smells like one. Columbus is also really starting to feel it, Steele. So you see the graphic up right now. My second pick and lock of the night is the Blue Jackets on the money line. The Blue Jackets have actually, when you look into their recent record, Steele, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. Here we go. Columbus wins against Boston, New Jersey, and a close one against Carolina. This team is actually feeling it right now, believe it or not. Johnny Gaudreau is turning it around. So give me the Columbus Blue Jackets as my lock of the night, but I'm going to same game parlay all 3 of these together. And if you haven't heard of this 6'5", 245 beast from Russia and Dmitry Voronkov, he is getting a look of my attention right now, Steele. A 4th round, 114th overall draft pick. 4 goals, 6 assists, 19 penalty minutes, 20 shots on net. He throws his body around, 16 hits. What's interesting enough, I read a story about this kid. He was about to bail out and go back to the K. Speaks no English, was really not feeling it in the United States. He was homesick. He wanted to go home, and he almost bailed out. The teammates and the fans in Columbus have turned it around for this kid. And at 6'5", 240, I'm taking Voronkov anytime point. I'm feeling this one in a big way, Steele. If there was anyone I would just hammer and not a same-game parlay, I like the Blue Jackets at home on the money line. Let me just leave it at this. Montreal, the little trend here for you, bad road team. 5-12 out of their last 17 away from home, and they only have 2 wins in their last 10 trips to Columbus. And you're muted, brother. There we go.
My fault there. I had the mute button. I thought everyone could hear me. I'll start over from the top there, but you've switched my mind. I am also going to a big flip triple hit from the exact same game. I also like I also do like the Rangers Red Wings under 6.5. That's a good one. Say it is the lock of my night, which it's going to be an honorable mention. Now I'm going to take it off my top 3 picks.
We'll update that.
We'll update that for tomorrow or for later on when we post the graphic onto Twitter. But that will be an honorable mention under 6.5 in that Rangers Red Wings game. I'm switching over to this this Canadians Blue Jackets game because we're on the same page here. Boom. Canadians Blue Jackets over 6.5. I'm feeling an over in this game. I think, like you just said, the young guns are going to come to play. And I did say a week ago that it was a matter of time. It was going to be sooner rather than later that these kids would break through and Blue Jackets would sort of get their head on straight and start winning some games. And they've been playing some really good hockey. So first pick, Canadians Blue Jackets over 6.5. Second pick, just alongside your kid that you're going with, I'm going with my guy, Adam Fantilli, anytime goal. It's been too long that he hasn't scored a goal. He's continuing to shoot the puck on net. And there's a lot of young talent on both sides. I think it's going to be a very fast-paced game and a very physical one at that in the defensive zone. So second bet, Fantilli, anytime goal. And third pick of the night, Johnny Gaudreau, anytime assist. Ooh. I think he's going to start dazzling some and make some plays soon for these Columbus Blue Jackets as they start to feel themselves.
He's been disappointing, that's for sure. But he has been getting on the score sheet in the last couple of games. I believe he was held off the score sheet, actually, in their most recent outing, because I'm pretty sure I bet that one. Anyhow, he's got the skills, right? It's just got to be between the ears for Johnny Gaudreau. We'll save that for a whole other episode. I think it's obviously comes down to him making a poor decision. He could be in New Jersey right now, and he chose Columbus anyway. Yeah, he has to be better. He's been putting up points. I like this. Hit me with your 3 bets, though, just so I know, and I can update this graphic as well.
Canadians Blue Jackets over 6.5. Fantilli anytime goal and Johnny Gaudreau anytime assist. We're both going for these Columbus Blue Jackets in this big flip triple dip.
That should really, really work out nicely for us, Steele, just because they've been so great all season. No, anyway, I'm feeling it tonight. These are the angles we're riding with. Let us know which of the angles you're loving. Always drop us those comments and find us on Twitter.
Yeah, let us know how your bets have been going this season as well. We always like the dialogue and the conversations, feedback with all of our listeners out there. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. And again, big news from Locked On. They have launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Thank you again so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow. Peace.
Make this holiday season one you'll remember forever with an engagement ring from JamesAllen.com. James Allen knows each love story is unique. That's why they make it easy to custom design engagement rings at up to half the price of a traditional jeweler. Choose from tons of conflict-free diamonds, both earth-created and lab-created. Then pick your ring setting and metal. Make your holiday engagement truly magical with 25% off at JamesAllen.com, promo code LOCKEDON. That's JamesAllen.com, promo code LOCKEDON.
The Monday edition of Locked On NHL is a must-listen. Every Monday on Locked On NHL, host Gil Martin takes you to the 3 biggest NHL stories from the weekend's games with the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. No national fluff. You get the real story from the Locked On experts who are with the team every day. Put it on your calendar every Monday on Locked On NHL. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.